welcome to another 3-string cigar box guitar lesson. I'm Sean from Chord Guitar, and today we're looking at a bit of beginner flat picking. So great tune, this one, but the reason why I've chosen it is Time of Your Life by Green Day, or Good Riddance, but the reason why I've chosen it is because it's often one that I use like as a very early on song, either on 6-string or even 3 strings, because it's really good for just some basic chord changes, but in particular a very sort of consistent picking pattern, which will hopefully really get your sort of right hand picking chops down. So just before we get into the lesson, let's just check if we're in tune. So as usual, it's standard G, D, G. So low G, middle D, and high G. Okay, so just carried on with a few lessons looking at some basic chords, or how we can sort of expand on chords on 3 strings. So there's a free sort of basic chord chart for this song which you can download from the website codertuition.com, and also we've done some sort of chord boxes, like beginner level chord boxes, and also movable and bar chord shapes, and also like a fretboard note finder. So it'll be really useful to take you through from the sort of early stages of playing, a little bit like this one, just in terms of the chord shapes, right through to some much more sort of advanced level playing. So it'd be much appreciated if you consider downloading that if you go to the website, and it's just, I'll put the link underneath this video. But what we're doing here is we're just using 4 chords, so very similar to the Neil Young one. This is also the key of the original song, so even though it's on 6 strings, you'd actually be able to play along with it when you've learnt it, and you can speed it up, play it a bit faster. So what we're doing is we're having to adapt it because it was originally on a 6-string guitar. So we're actually playing a power chord up here to start with, and this is a G5. Again, this is on the bar chord sheet, and so we've got fret 5 on the middle string and fret 7 on the top string, and then we've got the open G. Okay, and instead of playing a normal C, what we're doing is we're keeping like a bit of a high drone. This fret 7 note, this is a high D note. This is actually ringing through all 3 chords for the initial section. So this is now a C add 9, so just 2 fingers there. This is a bar, so fret 5, first finger, and then the 3rd finger stays where it is. Okay. And then just to finish off, I'm going to move up to fret 7 and just play a D bar. So that's a D5, a D power chord. So you've got a G power chord, so not barred, but then barred for the C add 9. Sometimes C sus2, but we'll call it C add 9 because that's what the initial 6-string guitar part was. And then that is a D5. Okay. Now I've done like quite an extensive lesson on sort of basic technique in Sunshine of Your Love, which was from a few weeks ago, so there was quite a lot on bar technique in that one, and also some basic sort of technique on how to hold your flat pick, how to get a sort of good approach to playing with that. So I'll put a link, please check that out. It'd be quite useful, but I'll just cover some of these basic things a little bit here. So when you're barring, what you want to do is you want to try to make sure that your thumb is halfway down the back of the neck, because we want to be pinching across. So you want to effectively, it's like you're pinching down onto this middle portion of your index finger with your thumb, but the neck is in the way. Okay, so that's how we bar. We're barring on fret 5. It's probably worthwhile, if this isn't such a common thing for you, it's probably worthwhile trying this first, just the one finger. Try and move it up to fret 7. So you see when I move up, my thumb's not staying where it is. I'm going to relax the pressure, move up like that. All right, so practice that a few times, but you also want to try and add your third finger in on fret 7 when we're on fret 5, and that gives us that more sort of jangly C add 9. Okay, so when we start off with the G, so frets 5 and 7, you actually want to keep your thumb a bit lower down. I mean, we can completely play it like that, but if we keep our thumb a bit lower, then all we've got to do is just reposition our first finger. So there's the G to start with. So you can't really see much of my thumb poking out over the top because it's halfway down the back of the neck. There's the C add 9, there's the D. Okay, so that's the first part that your fretting hand's playing, and what your right hand's doing is, so we're making sure that the pick is sort of coming out at like a right angle from the side of our thumb. It's pretty much always better to use just your index finger if possible. Now we're kind of, it's called like an arpeggio when you sort of pick notes from a chord, so it's a little bit like that. So we're picking each string once and moving in a particular pattern. So when people do that, sometimes, like I've talked before about when you're playing riffs, sometimes it's quite good to actually rest further up here with your like the part, sort of like the wrist part of your palm. So that your wrist movements come in like this, because when you're playing riffs, you've got a lot of notes often just on one string, so that works really well. But when we're sort of arpeggiating, when we're picking notes from chords, you're frequently moving in more of like a vertical direction up and down. So resting your little finger, or your pinky finger if you're an American, sort of just underneath the strings can actually be quite helpful to give us a sort of anchor, so that we can do a repetitive picking pattern. All right, so I'm just going to do this on the open G to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play, so I'll just call them 3, 2, 1. So string 3 is your bass, 2, 1. Okay, so the picking pattern is going to be 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. I'll do that again. 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. And there's a particular rhythm to it. 3, 2, 1. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2. That's the strings, obviously. The timing of it is like 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and so there's a gap in the middle. You don't play on beat 3. You come in just afterwards. So it's like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and sorry, 1, 2 and 3 and 4 and 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 okay. So yeah, maybe rewind the video and just try and pick up on what I was just doing and just play along with that. Also, one more thing, we want to, first of all, make sure we're reasonably kind of like level, flat on the string. Try not to sort of scrape on the side. Try and get your pick a bit flatter. You get a more crisper attack. If you can hear a bit of a sort of sound. You get a crisper sound if you're flat. But also we can use some upstrokes. So the idea of picking in the direction of the next string is quite handy. So I'm going to do a down because the next note's underneath. I'm going to do another down because the next note's underneath. But I'm going to do an up when I get here because I'm coming back up. So I'm going to go down, down, up, another up, and then a down, up, because I'm going to start again here. So I'm always picking in the direction of the next string, and that really helps with like the fluency because you're always just a little bit closer to where you need to be next. So it's down, down, up, down, up, down, sorry, I'll do that again. Down, down, up, down, up. Okay. So that picking pattern, we're going to keep that throughout. Okay, and we're going to play it twice on the G5, once on the C add 9, and once on the D5. So it sounds like this. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, up. Do it a little bit slower. Down, down, up, down, up again. Down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up. Right, practice that. I'm going to go for like super easy chord shapes here to start with, because often if you have something that's a bit new in one hand, if it feels, you know, a little bit tricky, it's more difficult than strumming because you've got to be a lot more selective. So what we want to do is we don't want to make both hands complicated. So let's make it super easy in this hand. So we're just going to very quickly blast through the whole sequence just using power chords. So instead of this, I'll come back and go through the chord shapes that I played in the intro in a minute, but we're going to play open G twice, and then we're going to play fret 5, just the bar, don't need to add that in, once, and then fret 7 once. So that's C and D. So that's exactly the same as what we just did before, but slightly different chord shapes. So, and then I'm going for fret 5. Doesn't sound quite as good, but it's completely passable, you know, it's all right. Okay, one more thing you can do, if it's difficult to change quickly to the next chord, you can actually miss out the very last note. So you could go down, down, up, down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down. So you can finish each bar just before you change on the low string 3, the low G. That would be absolutely fine as well. Okay, so that's the intro and the start of the verse. Now, sort of second half of the verse, or you could possibly even call it the pre-chorus, is E minor, D. This is an E minor, that's a D5, that's power chord again. These are on the beginner chord sheet. C, and I'm going to keep it dead simple. Just go down to the open G, G5. Does that twice, but we're just going to, instead of having to sort of jump around like that, we're just going to go, fret 9 is an E. So again, if you look at the note finder sheet on the fretboard diagram, on the bar chord PDF, then you can see which frets we're on about. So fret 9 was E, so that's like an E5 instead of an E minor. D5, fret 7, fret 5, C5, open G. So we're going to do that to start with. Or even easier, I'll miss off the last note. Down, down, up, down. That's it. Now, because we've got 4 chords in this sequence, we're playing the picking pattern for each of them once, because that picking pattern lasts for exactly 1 bar, 4 beats. So previously it was like 2 bars for the G, one for the C, one for the D. Now we've got E minor, D, C, G. Okay, so you do that twice, so that's second half of the verse or pre-chorus. The chorus itself is shorter. It's only 6 bars. It's E minor to G twice, and then E minor to D. And it, again, 1 bar each, so... Sorry, I'll go to G. D. And then from there, we're just going back to the intro stroke verse sequence, which is like a little break. He plays around that twice, and then he's back in with the verse 2, like the lyrics. But let's do the simple version. So we're going to go up to fret 9. I'll finish on this bass string with the final pick. I'll go at the open G, so it's 3, 4. Do that twice, and then the third time go to fret 9 and then fret 7, and then we just be straight back to the intro, so twice on the G, once on the C, once on the D. So if you make sure you download the score, the sort of chord chart for this song. It'd be quite handy, just because we're going to play through this in a minute. So it's twice round for an intro, and then it's twice round for the verse with the same chords: G, G, C, D, and then the pre-chorus is E minor, D, C, G twice. And then the verse is E minor G, E minor G, E minor D, and then it just all cycles round again. But if you find that okay, sort of if you've got a bit of coordination going, if your picking's all right and you're managing to move with your bar, and you're not having to sort of stop after each chord, I mean, because it's really important to not go like that, because you can hear clearly that there are quite significant gaps in between the chords, so it's always got a flow, so people can like tap the foot along. So make sure you can do that. Potentially try it with a click, or you can even find like a drum beat on YouTube. They've got some really good, just sort of free basic beats. If you search for, I don't know, something like sort of 70 BPM. But once you can do that, if you wanted to play with the chord shapes that I was doing in the intro, so for like the pre-chorus part, it's E minor, like that, D5, so again these are on the beginner sheet, C, and it kind of almost sounds better to just go to the sort of neutral open G afterwards, but you could easily go to that G that's on the sheet. That would work pretty well as well. Same picking all the way through. Do that twice, and then the chorus, I'm just going to drop down to the open G5, but again you can go there if you prefer the sound. Do that twice, and then I'm just going to go to that D, just so it's a little bit different. So we've got some variation. So when we go to the more sort of recognisable like guitar figure, it's a bit brighter, and again a bit of contrast, because it's just same 4 chords all the way through the song. So I mean that's it really. I didn't want to make this too long. Repetitive patterns, or like one pattern played repetitively, making sure it's super important that you don't look at your picking. This is the crucial thing. So if you just go round a pattern like this, then it'll just kind of develop a good, like, sort of basic sort of building block, you know, good sort of solid, confident strumming, picking hand playing is going to really sort of see you through like all sorts of songs. But yeah, so if you decide which version of the chords you want to play, either just play the bar chords all the way through, grab the chart, because it's probably easier to just sort of like follow that to start with. And I'm going to play the chords a little bit slower, like I did in the demo at the beginning. And I'll sort of shout out when we change them. So it's basically twice round each part, except for the chorus, which is the chorus, 6 bars. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. C add 9, D, repeat, C add 9, next bit E minor, D, C, going for a normal C here, open G, repeat E minor, D, C, G, and then the chorus E minor, just to open G, exactly the same again, open G, and then E minor to D, and then start again back up to the G5 G power chord. Just do this once, this sequence. C add 9. Okay. Yeah, so hopefully that's not too difficult, but really make sure that you're not looking at your picking. I always bang on about this when I'm doing like face-to-face lessons because it's so important, and everyone wants to look at what they're doing, so make sure you don't. It'll really benefit you down the road. But what we're going to do is we're going to try like a couple more sort of chord-based songs, so yeah, if you look out for those, we're going to drop those fairly soon, and hopefully like alongside the PDFs, like the chord chart PDFs, it'll give you a really good sort of idea of the fretboard, good ability to switch between shapes and all the rest of it, and you'll be able to play like a whole bunch of you know, sort of like classic rock and pop tunes, and that's it. So please consider downloading the PDFs, would be much appreciated to help support the channel, and we'll see you here again soon on Coda Guitar.